Today, we're talking again about Devlink. The previous week, we did like an initial first impressions with the tool. We kind of went through the official guide that Devlink provides, that Webflow provides. We saw cool things. We saw some things that maybe were not so cool because it's still a beta product, but I mean, everything it's worth mentioning. And at the end of last day, the previous day, we were guessing like, okay, what else we can do with Devlink, right? And one of the suggestions was, how about we dive into the examples that Devlink provides?
That's sweet.
Let me make a quick recap of what we did on the previous stream, just in case that you didn't see it. But essentially, we created a Webflow project. We installed Devlink. Okay, we generated a Next.js project following these guidelines. Is that a Next.js project? We were able to sync it with Webflow. So we created this My Book card project, and we use that to populate the page. Okay, and actually, let's just try to run it again to make sure that everything's still working fine, because it's been a week. Shouldn't be broken, but you never know. If we come here, localhost 3000, I'll zoom in a little bit once it loads. I remember that the first time it took a while. Yeah, it's compiling. Okay, cool. So this is what we got on the previous stream. Okay, doesn't look very cool, but it's still something nice to use. And it's this same book card replicated a bunch of times, right? And for each one of these, we updated the props. So the component has some props that we created. And I remember that we just hard-coded it. Yeah. This is what we hard-coded. Doesn't look very scalable, because probably we would like to be fetching the data and then populating things. But it shows how we can reuse a single component to display different data. For now, we just have this hard-coded book cards. But I want to, see what else we can build with Webflow. So what if we download a template, but I want to download both the Webflow page, so the Webflow project, and I want to load the code base, the cloneable, because I want to see exactly how did the Webflow team handle it, and then we can compare with what we did the previous stream. Okay, so we have two things, reference implementations and clonable made in Webflow sites. What do you want to check? Weather app or job board? What do you think is best? The job board, it's the one most up to date. Let's go for the job board. What do you think? Okay, so I'm going to download this. So I'll check this out. So first we got the code base, and then we'll clone the project and try to sync it. I'm using GitHub Desktop in my case. But you can do it from the CLI. You can do it with another GUI. It's up to you, honestly. Okay, I'm going to close this. And let's open the one from Devlink. And just in the meantime, let's install things. So I'm just going to do pm install. I'm going to assume that it includes everything out of the box, and I just have to run pm install and pm dev. You know what? Before even syncing, let's just run this. I want to see exactly what it contains, and then we can inspect the Webflow project. Let's clone the project, or let's run this first. Compiled. Okay, we have an unhandled runtime error. Okay, cannot read properties out of undefined jobs data. Okay, let's try and inspect exactly what's going on here. We have a README. Okay, this is an Next.js. Actually, let me do this. This is an Next.js project bootstrapped with Create Niche app and developed using Webflow and Devlink. Webflow clonable. You can clone the project, but getting started, pm dev, live side. Oh, we need some environment variables. That's why. We create a lightweight backend to serve up content from Airtable. In order for this to work, you'll need to get a copy of Airtable, generate a personal access token. Okay. And then in the root of a project, create an EMB file locally with the lines. Oh, wow. This is much more where can I expect it. Okay, let's do it. So we have this job board from Airtable. And it has just this thing, jobs, with names, logs, descriptions, locations, apply links, categories, company, benefits, and featured. Okay, so what we want to do is copy this base into our own account. So I have my new workspace here that contains the job board that I just cloned. And now I have to get an access token. So again, I'm gonna take this away. I don't want to share this access token with anybody. Count API keys. By the way, did you know that API keys from Airtable are going to be deprecated in 6 months? If you're using apps with Airtable, you should know about that. In 6 months, Airtable is going to be deprecating the personal access tokens, and there's going to be an OAuth to Webflow. So definitely keep that in mind before the beginning of next year. We'll have to create this EMB file. And I should not be sharing this again. Okay, if this is the moment where you would put some music in the background, just to make it more ease for the people. Okay, I'll just copy this. Just for everyone who's watching and waiting for me to do something about this, I'm filling some private keys to make sure that we can fetch the data from Airtable and publish it. I think that this should work now. Yay! So now, for now, I filled the jobs key and the Airtable base ID, which is what's necessary to fetch the data from Airtable. So let's inspect. We have localhost here. Cool. Visual development job board. Okay, some static things. Some prices, looking cool. We have interactions. Okay, excited because on the previous stream we did not check how interactions work. Features, okay, and we have a bunch of jobs already. So I'm gonna assume that these jobs are being fetched from Airtable. Let's just check it. What if I do Webflow Designer and Developer? What if I do Webflow Designer and Developers? Just this. What happens? Be updated? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. So anytime that we're loading the page, the data is fetching, it's being fetched from Airtable. Nice. And it's being displayed in here. Cool. Oh, we'll have to clone this. Yeah, I'm just going to clone it now. Clone this. I want to put it in Finsweet. Correct. This is going to be that link job board stream. Create this. Okay, cool. All done. And I would love to dive into the code base. Let's start seeing things. So we have, again, pages, public styles. Pages is defining all the different pages from the project. So we would have, how many pages do we have? We have the home, the about, jobs. Okay, so either say as would be the home, the about would be for the about. See, okay, very simple, probably static or not, we'll see. And the jobs, again, it's probably going to be fetching jobs from Airtable and displayed here. Okay, nothing special, but still way better than what we created. Okay, so let's see exactly what do we have here. So in the home page, okay, so I see that all the components are broken down. Component section wrapper, component heading. Okay, so what they did was just create the different parts of the page and split them in components. Okay, so we have a component for navigation, have a component for the hero sections, have a component for about us, social proof. Okay, we have something here that it's not a component. Interesting. We'll see how this turns out. Is that even on the page? I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like they forgot to include these testimonials in the project. Dynamic list items. Okay. So these would define a single component. Okay. Page heading. And what's this? Details. Oh, so that would be for the job page. Learn more. Oh, cool. So there's also one page for a job, kind of like it would be collection list page. So these are the details for a job page. And then also the about information, which is hard-coded. The pricing, it's also hard-coded. Student plans, features. Okay. So I see that most of this, it's hard-coded. I want to see exactly how much is just a few things put together to make it look cool, but in reality, it's not that useful, or it really makes sense what they did here. So let's inspect the homepage, actually. Yeah. Okay. So see what they did. So instead of designing the entire pages, instead of creating, the entire homepage and creating the entire about page and the entire jobs page in Webflow, they just created the components and that's it. And then they probably in the Next.js code base, they just assembled all the components like building blocks to create this. Okay, let's check it out. So first of all, let's see the homepage. There is some use effect here to fetch the API to retrieve the jobs data. Okay, good. And then we have a few states: jobs data, loading, and error. Okay. So there's going to be an error display. No, they didn't add some errors. Not even loading either. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So hat. This is from Next.js, I believe. It's just a built-in component. Yeah, to add some data to the head. So if we inspect this, if we come here, elements, and we inspect the head, and in here, so all of this title, description, and all this stuff, this is being injected by this head component. Nothing special. Okay, but let's start with the new nav. This is interesting because I'm already seeing what I was complaining about the previous stream. I'm already seeing that they just work around it in these projects. And it's the fact that there are no global classes at all in this project, right? So if you inspect, the new nav just goes straight away at the root level with no composability with other things other than components. So imagine, for example, that instead of having the new nav as this, let me create a new page. I want to explain what I mean. So just whatever. Okay, so new nav. So they have added it like this, right? And the new nav is just a component that's added there, and that's it. But what if I don't want to use the new nav exactly like this? I want to have some kind of wrapper in here, and this wrapper has some, I don't know, my wrapper, whatever. Okay, and in some cases I want to use this, but in other cases I want to use this component inside something else, like this. You know what? I think that it's better if I do it with the job listings. Yeah, let's do it with the job listings because it makes more sense what I'm trying to explain. Okay, they already do it. Okay, hold on. Jobs. How do they do the jobs listing exactly? because they just have the job listing. Okay, let me scroll down. Oh, okay. Okay, so this is exactly what, okay. I think I'm confusing a lot of people, but check how the job listing is implemented. So the job listing, it's just the component itself, the listing component, right? And the way that they assemble it on the page is not by just dumping the components and that's it. They wrap it in something. They wrap it in a list, and this list has some styles to separate all the items. And also it has a container, it has a section. So they have some extra styles that are using to create this kind of layout in here with the listing. But this layout, it's really not designed in Webflow. This layout is designed in Next.js. Because if I try to wrap this, I know that there's a quick command for wrapping, then I work out. Okay, that's interesting. So they have the container class designed here. Styles global. But they had to, yeah. So the container class that it's designing here, it's not the same one as the one that it's being used in the Next.js project. So if we inspect this container global CSS, yeah, it's just added here. So there's still some manual work if you want to design the global classes in Webflow and sync them with Devlink. Because now imagine that instead of having this at 1200, I do at 768, for example, right? Because I want to use Webflow as my main design system, right? So I decided to change the styles also for the container here. Webflow would make sense. But if I try to sync this, it would not be synced with Webflow, right? Let me see. Let's sync this. Let's go and create an integration API key. And for the ones that were not here in the previous stream, the way that we do it is integrations, API access. Copy this, and I'm not going to show the env variables because there is the Airtable one. But I'll be here in a second. So Webflow site token, here it goes. And the site ID, I'm going to assume that it's this. How do I get the Webflow site ID? Hold on. Why do I need the Webflow site ID? Doesn't specify anything about IDs in the guidelines. I'm going to assume that it's this. Okay. Done. Okay, so I have set the Webflow key. So now we should be able to sync the project. Let's try it out. Let's go to package and I will create a new sync job. And this is going to be the MPX. Let's see if I can remember it. It was something like at Webflow CLI sync. Did I set it right? Come on. MPX Webflow Devlink sync. Not even close. Okay. Where's word of the shot? Okay, cool. PM sync. Let's see if it syncs. Okay, I'm getting an error. Try it again. Something unexpected happened. Let's see again. Let's do it again. So I have the token in place. What if I host redir site ID auth token, which is the one that we did, CSS modules. Cool. Now it should work. npm sync. Ah, come on. What's failing? Something unexpected happened. Let me try to fix it again. JAWS key, Webflow site key. I think I copied correctly the site token. Come on. Okay, I want to show you what I mean. So they were asking me to update the process env for the site ID, and they did not add that properly. So this should be Webflow site ID like this, right? README? Yeah. Now it should work. Let's do it again. Yay, finally. So now that I have everything synced, I know that the global CSS is exported, but this global CSS, it's just the classes that are built in Webflow, right? So all these W classes from Webflow, but I'm not going to get the container class. Remember, after all of these that I did, remember that my main point was to try to manage this container class from Webflow and not directly Webflow, right? But I have no way to do it. If I refresh this, the container is still going to be fixed to the 1200 value. Container, 1200 value, because it's hard-coded in Next.js in here, rather than being imported from Webflow, right? So another downside of Devlink is that you still don't have a single place, like a single source of truth when it comes to the design system. You now have things scattered in different places, right? But you know what I'm thinking? Something we could do is at least, imagine that I don't want to do this. I don't want to have the globals in here, right? And I see that the globals are just this. But maybe, just for the sake of managing everything, maybe I can just create an embed. So exactly what I want to do is I'm going to create a component called global classes. And I'm going to import the CSS generated for that component as global CSS. This global CSS, it's being called already from the layout, right? It's being imported from here, which is good. But and you can see how also it imports the globals that are hard-coded in styles-global CSS. But what I want to do is create an additional component, and just for now, I'm going to say container, right? What else? We can do section, for example. What else do we need? Section, container narrow. We'll do that too. Container narrow. And also container small. We cannot do this in Webflow. We don't have pseudo. Okay, I'll just skip it and do section header. So I'm just adding all these classes here, and bear with me because it will make sense. Section header, and we can also not do this. We cannot do this nested, this parent selector, but anyways. And hero heading, we'll do also the hero heading. Hoping that all these styles are defined in Webflow. Maybe they're not. Let's skip these ones. Okay, so now what I want to do is create a component from this. And we'll call this global classes. Let's call it global styles. Cool. No need to publish. And let's sync again. Okay, cool. So see how it created a new global styles component. And this global styles component contains, the section, container, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I don't care about the component itself. I care about the CSS that has been generated. And see how I get all these styles that are coming directly from Webflow, right? So I could potentially now do this. Instead of importing add styles global CSS, I could do devlink / global styles.module.css. Okay, cool. What happens if I do this? That something is not right. Something is not working. On. It still compiles it. Okay, so it didn't work as I expected. What if I do this, just for the sake of testing global style CSS, and now I do global style CSS without the module? What happens now? Failed to compile? Why? Why is it failing? What's the problem with it? It's just CSS. Definitely. What's the issue here? Import trace, compiling. Gonna kill this. Let's do it again. Come on. Can't resolve. Yeah, I don't care about this. Hold on, I'm trying to hack this now. So I don't want the component. I don't want the types. I just want this. Still more errors. Okay, this idea is not that as good as was expecting, but still, it's worth a try. Hold on, I'm almost there. Compiling error. Okay. Did it work now? Yay! Okay, cool. So now the container, it's 768 as we defined in Webflow, not hard-coded in Next.js, right? So the container, remember that I updated the styles to be 768. Ideally, Devlink would provide a better workflow to do this, because whenever you import components, export components from Webflow with Devlink generates what's called the module styles, is module CSS, okay? And the way that Next.js treats these modules, is that whenever you render the component, it creates a specific ID to make sure that the styles from the component don't leak outside of it. Let me show you what I mean. So imagine that just the navigation. If we inspect the navigation here in Webflow, the classes are called navbar, container, brand image, net menu, right? You have these names, but the moment that you import them as CSS modules in Next.js, and we inspect it again, look what we get. We get this kind of class names. So new nav, navbar underscore, blah, 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 new nav container, blah, blah, blah. So this randomly generated names are a way of converting those classes to unique classes that just apply to that component. Okay, and that's powerful when you want to use component-specific styles, because your styles are not leaking anywhere, right? You're using the styles for this new nav, and maybe you want to call navbar this, or navlink, or button. Let's imagine that we have this, that it's called button. And maybe inside another component, you also want to call this button, but because they are separate components, with the styles being scoped, then in Next.js, you have full control of it. You can just go crazy about it, and the styles from one component are not going to leak out to another component. But the problem that we have is that in Webflow, these styles are actually together. If I use a component here, a button, and I use a button here too, me do button, and I'm going to call this button. Oops, I want to add this inside here. If I do this button, right, I'm really using the same class, right? I'm using this same postage of class for this component, not postage of. I'm using the same button class for the this button, right? And this button, same button class. But probably if I now sync this, let's see, you'll see how they're really going to be treated as different classes. It's not going to be the same class. And that's a problem to me, specifically for this workflow. Yeah. Okay, so this button, it's using this class, new nav, button, blah, 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 right? And if we inspect the other button, this one, it's hero button, blah, 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 blah. So it's same styles. It could be the same CSS class, but it's not, because it applies this module component scoping. This components, this CSS scoping of the components. So to me, it feels like we're using two different workflows together, and those workflows are not matching. I can see how there's a clash between how classes are managed in Webflow and how classes are managed in Devlink. Because in Devlink, I could come here and I could say nav var new nav, right? And I could change this container, and I could make it, I don't know, like this, right? And now I would have two different values for containers. I would have one container here, and I would have one container for the other component, which is the hero section. How's this called? Hero module CSS. Like this, right? But becomes an issue, especially because we cannot export global classes. Maybe that's going to be a thing in the future, right? But it also means that the way that Devlink is treating all the components as modules with scope styles, then you're going to be generating unique classes for every single shared class. You're going to have a unique class for container, unique class for button, unique class for section, etc. So it's kind of like cloning a lot the same thing. It's just making the app way more heavier than it should. Aside that, the way that you handle styles in Webflow, it's not the same as Devlink, so the development experience is a little bit weird. So it's not the best way that you would think of managing that. But again, this is a beta tool. I'm going to show you that you can use Devlink with whatever you want. Getting started, templates, React.js. We could try that, because there's a way of setting the modules to false. Stalling. CSS modules. By default, Webflow components use CSS modules to prevent component CSS classes from colliding with global styles. If you want, you can disable CSS modules, and all styles will be defined globally That's what we want. Right. It makes total sense to disable this because there's really no benefit of using the CSS modules, at least right now, because it just generates extra classes, but you don't get any benefit out of it. So let's just turn CSS modules false, and let's sync again, and let's see what happens then. I'm guessing that then we can just get rid of what I did here of importing the global styles. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I was talking for half an hour for something that could be fixed in just a single a single boolean. But that's nice. Cool. Okay, so now this means that probably I can do, where is it? Global CSS. Nice. So now this contains all the styles, which to me at this point feels way better than just going with CSS modules. Ideally, those styles would be purged. Just have the styles that are used on each page. But maybe Next.js does that. Let's see. Style. Does it contain all the styles? Where are the styles coming from? I want to see that. From global CSS. And global CSS contains everything? Yeah, that's a pity. I was hoping that there would be some kind of tree shaking of the CSS classes. Yeah, correct. So now we don't have unique classes. Now we have just the classes from Webflow. Ideally, I would like to have a mix. I would like to have global classes and modules. And inside the modules, I would love to have component-specific styles, right? So, and because I want to clarify exactly why I was complaining. So imagine that I'm creating a component myself. So I'm just going to create it here, whatever. And I say my component, JS, right? And this is just thing that components are. Can I do something like this? Yeah, right. Okay, so this is my component, right? The way that you would style it with modules is doing this. My component module.css, right? And inside here, I can write any styles. I can do, I don't know, even I can use the same class that already exists in the global styles, and I can change it, right? I can have styles that are specific to just this component. And these styles are not going to leak anywhere. But I cannot do that in Webflow. So I cannot come here in Webflow and open my component that I just created. Let's imagine that this is the component that I just created. I cannot add a new class here and call this my class and have these styles that I'm creating now to be specific to this component. So these styles are leaking outside of the component in Webflow. So we're trying to simulate something in Webflow that it's not really the thing. And this is why it's very weird to have this mix of global styles or module styles, but in Webflow we cannot create the module classes itself. Anyways, I think I'm just confusing people at this point, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to communicate. So to me, either we just keep everything as modules, but it doesn't have much benefit because it generates a lot of duplicated classes, or we keep everything global, and then we don't get the benefits of modules, we don't get tree shaking, we don't get anything. We just get, the dump of the global styles. So I guess that ideally, the best solution, the best direction that Webflow could take here is allow us to create component-specific styles in Webflow. So imagine that I can create something like, I don't know, a new class, right? This is a new class. And this class could be marked something like scope. Imagine that we had some kind of checkbox that defined this class as scope to the component, right? And in that case, it would make total sense to have the modules, the CSS modules in Devlink, because we would have exactly what we need to make the experience the same between Webflow and Next.js, or the code base, right? The same experience are either you write global CSS or you write component-specific CSS, and you can mix and match both. Today, we're done with this. We discussed quite a lot of things related to how Devlink treats the styles. So we kind of did not go through everything that was left to check in Devlink. There were things like interactions, forms, etc. That it's something that could be checked in Devlink, but we did not. Okay, so I encourage you to go ahead and try it out if you want to keep digging into Devlink. I think it has a bright future ahead. There are a few things that can be improved, but it's a beta product, so it makes total sense. So I encourage you to try to build something with it and let me know. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you on the next Friday.